the focus for you guys? You get obviously a lot of vendor interaction. The members too. You see a lot of members while you're out there.
We do have a lot of members that reach out and want to sit down and talk to us, look at what industry's doing, what the back half of the year is doing. Our main goal while we're there, obviously, it is our Super Bowl for vendors. 3 huge buildings, 16 stories high, with just so many vendors that are there, that are in our portfolio, or vendors that want to talk to us.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. We might regret looking back on how Las Vegas market went and the experiences had, the time, the flights, everything. I think Jeff, Chad, and I regret the decision way beforehand to do a podcast the Thursday, not barely 24 hours after we all got home from Vegas market. Just because if you know the show, you know that it is quite a beast of a campus, and just, I think the total's 5 million square feet of exhibit space between the 3 buildings and the convention center that's there. It's a mammoth of an event, but we say that in, respectfully, and just knowing how awesome it really is to be there in Las Vegas for a market event at World Market Center. And we're recapping it. That's what we're doing this week. We had our commitment, we stuck to it, and Mr. Jeff Rose, Chad Fischer, and myself hopped on this episode, this interview, to discuss how things went, to get an overview on what they learned at market, what members and vendors were telling them as they were having meetings, and to learn a little bit, too, about market itself and the differences between the various market events that happen throughout the year and throughout the country, and just recap it all. It's a wonderful experience, one that we get to do from a communication side. We get to go out there and meet with vendors and interview them and help them to get their message out there through our Las Vegas Market Live platform. And we're running around, but I know, the amount of appointments and interviews and meetings I have pales in comparison to what the F&B team does while they are there on the ground in Las Vegas. So great to catch up with them, see what it's like from their perspective, and dive into, the event as a whole. And then, of course, get ready to turn around and be there in just a few days' time for prime time this year. So very much looking forward to being back. But for now, the focus is on Las Vegas market. So let's dive into it. This is Jeff Rose and Chad Fischer here on the Independent Thinking Podcast. All right, we are back on the Independent Thinking Podcast, and I don't know why we didn't just do this in Vegas, y'all. This would have been so much easier than waking up early on a Thursday morning after getting back from Las Vegas market, wouldn't it have?
Yeah, I'm asking myself that. I flew in last night, and you had me getting up at 6:30 or whatever it is, and give me a little bit of sleep there, Rob. So how you feel, John?
Same, but I was fortunate enough. I came home a day earlier. Jeff was nice enough to stick around the last day while I got to come home. So I'm a little bit more rested up, but I'm still on that Vegas hangover.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, man. Mr. Jeff Rose and Mr. Chad Fischer, members of our furniture, bedding, and outdoor team here at Nationwide Marketing Group. I appreciate it. As much as I'm sad about it that we have to be up this early, but coming off of, you said it, I like how you coined that, right? The Vegas hangover, because we're certainly feeling it, but at least we can kind of just let it roll right into, a week or so from now. We'll be back there. So we'll just get to rinse and repeat, do that whole thing. But no, guys, appreciate you.
It'll be a little bit different though there, Rob.
It will be.
There's nothing like a good nationwide prime time. So
absolutely. That's the get up and rally, we'll call it. How about that for prime time? Awesome.
How do you feel? You were out there. You had a good time.
It was good. I know you guys certainly run around a lot more than I do, but you aren't lugging around camera equipment. Really, we should be asking Glenn how he's feeling, lugging the camera around and all the equipment. But it was great to connect with the vendor partners, as always.
Y'all really do just such a great job with Las Vegas Market Live, man. You really
Thank
do.
you.
Appreciate Glenn very much.
Yeah, appreciate you having us out there. We got a little corner of that the showroom as well, where we get to, at least Kev gets to post up and do his thing while he's sitting there editing those videos at a fast clip so we can get them out there. But no, just an awesome all around time, and nice to see we're all rested and recovered. But let's dive into this market. How was July Las Vegas market for the both of you?
Yeah, so it was an interesting market, Rob, to be quite honest. Didn't really know what to expect. Heard rumblings it was gonna be soft. And it was soft. The traffic was down. It was 115 degrees, and we feel like we've been in Vegas 20 times this year. But there was a lot of I would say enterprise dealers out there, a lot of large dealers working with some great vendors. But you could definitely tell that the traffic was down. But the dealers that we were talking to, and the vendors, their spirits were up. I mean, it been a challenging first half of the year. But there was some optimism for the back half, and some really good optimism for 2025.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to say they're holding on until the back half, because they are hoping that Labor Day is going to be good, and as we move into Q4. But all in all, glad to be out there. Met some great retailers, and Chad and I were running around. I think we saw close to 50 vendors in 4.5 days, and saw some really really great things, and just solidifying partnerships. So, but how about you, Mr. Fish? How did you see it?
I think you hit it right on the head. We didn't know what we were gonna get. But the members that were out there, we did have an opportunity to sit down and chat with them. The optimism is high going into 2025. Even with some of our vendors, we had some vendors that were kind of giving us a sneak peek of what they got going on into 2025, including Sealy. We got a chance to look at what they've got going on, and I'm excited for it. The good thing about a little slower market as far as members go, Rob, is that it did give us a little bit more time with our vendors.
Yeah.
We weren't as rushed walking in and saying, "Hey, how are you? Have a great market." Walking out, we were able to get a little bit more face time with the management teams over there. So that was a good thing. So overall, I would say it was successful for us as a team for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
The vendors are like chomping at the bit to talk to you, right? Like when traffic's down a little bit, so they're like excited to get you in the room, and I'm sure that helps as well. You mentioned members and vendors, so talk about that. Yeah, because I'm running around, so I know we bump into each other on escalators, past like two ships passing in the middle of the day in Vegas, instead of at night. But the focus for you guys, you get obviously a lot of vendor interaction. The members too. You see a lot of members while you're out there.
We see them in passing as well.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of members that reach out and want to sit down and talk to us. Look at what industry's doing, what the back half of the year is doing. Nationwide has a booth out there. We bring our field team in, and they set appointments, and they're like, "Hey, Jeff, Chad, you mind coming to sit down with some of these great members of ours?" And and then we're on an escalator, and members coming down, and we're going up, and they're like, "Rose, Fischer, turn around, we got to talk for a second." And so but Chad and and David, our furniture director, he and Chad and I, our main goal while we're there, obviously, we do want to talk to members and things, but it is our Super Bowl for vendors. I mean, it is 3 huge buildings, 16 stories high, with just so many vendors that are there, that are in our portfolio, or vendors that want to talk to us. And so we need to go and do our due diligence and make sure the product's right, sit down with their leadership team, and see if it's a good fit for us. Chad and I and David, we get calls every single week about vendors wanting to be a part of the Nationwide family. And one thing that I'm proud about what our team does is we do our homework, we do our due diligence, and then once we do all the prep work and make sure that we feel that vendor is good enough for us to at least go look at market, then we're running around going and just doing our due diligence on the product, make sure it's up to the standards that we feel as a Nationwide vendor partner.
No, that's awesome. And you mentioned it, getting around to a lot of these showrooms, and talking with vendors and would-be vendors. Do you notice a lot? Is it from the product side, or even just what they're telling you? Do you get a lot of aspect around like the trends that are happening or what's going on in the space, and how much is that a part of the conversations, or kind of what you're noticing while you're at these events? Chad?
You want to take that, Fish?
Um, so to paraphrase Rob, you're wanting to know as far as when we're talking to vendors, what kind of trends that we're seeing
Yeah, exactly.
in the
Yep.
space. Yeah, I think it's very helpful for us. It's one thing to have a conversation and be like, hey, you know what, I like the color green, Rob. So I think I'll go with that. But to actually be inside the space and see what they've got going on, and to see the excitement that is centered around it from the members and the retailers that are in there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge advantage for us, to be able to be in the spaces, seeing, touching, feeling, because you can't get that stuff by looking at a PowerPoint or talking to somebody directly about it.
Sounds very similar to the retail experience, right? Kind of, you can shop a website, but to be in store and looking at the product, feeling, touching it, very similar for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, Rob,
absolutely.
you know, I am very proud of the team. Once we get there, because it isn't we just don't fly out to Vegas and say, all right, where do we want to go? I mean, the
Right.
prep work that the team does before each of these markets. I mean, it starts months in advance. I mean, it's if I was to show you what our schedule looks like on paper and the notes that are behind each vendor that we're going in, and the prep work that we do, talking to members, talking, just researching what are the trends, what is important to that consumer out there, and then are the vendors translating that into their product? Because if we see vendors that are constantly doing that, that shows us that they are forward thinking, they are looking at different ways to reach consumers. And if they're reaching consumers, that means our members, the retailers,
Yep.
are going to have a better experience for that consumer because the product's right.
Yeah.
And when it gets down to it, if it's great product, great ideas, innovative thinking, the retailer's going to win, the RSA is going to win because everyone's making money and the consumer's happy, and it all goes full circle. And so it
Yeah.
all starts with the prep work. And I couldn't begin to say how proud I am of Fischer and David for all the work that they do on the front end, to make sure it's a successful market for not only us, but for the nationwide vendor partners and the members.
Yeah. If I know what my own schedule looked like and the work we did, putting just like 14, 15 video interviews together, I can only imagine the spreadsheet and the notes and what it must have looked like for you guys. So
Yeah,
more power to you.
and I'm gonna tell you this, like we're gonna have a meeting with Melissa and Simpson and the leadership team, because these markets, and then having prime time 3, 4, 5 days after markets. I mean, what are we doing here, team?
Yeah,
Help
it's
us out.
incredible.
Help us out.
It's a good time. We love doing this to ourselves. What are you talking about?
I get home last night and I'm already kind of starting putting things, in order for next week, because we leave for prime time. And my wife's like, yeah, going back to Vegas next week, right? Huh? And so it's
Do some
just,
laundry, and
I know.
I'm telling you, one of these times, hopefully, Vegas is what it is for the primetime perspective. We should have all the prep work we did, none, to make sure we had like at least the showroom set up to stay in there and just like spend the week. I don't know, like the flights back and forth. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's funny, Rob. We talk about Vegas, and I'm sure you guys hear it too. But my buddies were always like, "Dude, Vegas
What a great time.
must be rough." And I'm like, "Okay, you come out. I promise you." Fortunately, my wife is very supportive, as is Beth for Jeff, and they get it, right? So when we do come home, my wife says to me, she's like, "You relax.
Yep.
I'll cook supper. You just sit down," because she knows how grueling it is. But we absolutely love it. I'm
Yeah.
excited every time we go.
Yep.
At the end of every day when we walk 25,000 steps, my feet aren't as excited. But I'm excited. Excuse me. I'm excited to go back to Vegas again next
Yeah.
week for Prime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to talk too. You mentioned Vegas is its own animal in terms of market. I know you guys also attend High Point, and we don't necessarily have as much of a presence at them or go to them, but other markets around the country. Dallas and Atlanta come to mind. I think I heard someone say, I didn't know this, New Jersey might have a market. Is that right? It could be.
I believe it's probably more of a regional market, Rob.
Gotcha.
And it's markets have been around,
Yeah.
forever since. I mean, they're. I'm going to tell you a city that you probably have never heard of, Tupelo, Mississippi. I mean that was the Mecca Center back in the 80s
Wow.
and 90s for furniture market.
Yeah.
I mean and then Vegas was built, and it kind of spread out. And so with High Point, North Carolina is more centered around furniture. I mean, that
Yeah.
is a furniture market. Vegas is more geared towards bedding. Not to say that furniture is not out in Vegas, because it's got a great representation. And bedding's not represented in High Point. That they both are, but that's kind of the you've got High Point. That, I mean, there's a ton of furniture manufacturers that are there, and a lot of those don't show out in Vegas. And so when a calendar year comes up, the furniture and bedding team knows that 6 weeks of the year,
Yeah.
no matter what, before we do anything, our schedule's done is at furniture markets. You
Yeah.
have to be there. You have to meet with these vendors. You have to see the trends. You have to make sure that the vendors that you're going to bring into the nationwide portfolio meet the criteria to be a nationwide vendor partner, the standards of a nationwide vendor partner. And the only way to do that is to sit down with that exec team in front of their product at these shows, and talk about how can this be a great fit for the nationwide membership.
The vendors that are at both, how do you see them differentiate themselves from, like I imagine too, West Coast, East Coast, a little bit easier for, the dealers that are on either side of the country to get to certain ones. But like, how does the vendor set themselves apart for those that are at both, or do they try to?
Yeah, on the furniture side, Chad, I'll let you speak on the bedding side, if you, but on definitely on the furniture side, just like you were talking about earlier, trends and stuff. I mean, there's West Coast trends and there's East Coast trends, and
Yeah.
so obviously the Vegas furniture market, they gear it towards West Coast distribution. High Point is more East Coast, and you can see that into their product mix.
Yeah.
I would also say in High Point, showrooms are a little bit bigger, I would say, and so there's a lot more product that they
Buildings,
show.
right? Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's crazy to think about, but in Vegas, there's 3 buildings,
Right.
16 stories high, and everything's crammed with these three buildings. High Point Furniture Market, and High Point, North Carolina, it truly is a city, and it
Yeah.
is the market is a city, and the navigation is not the easiest, to be quite honest with you,
Yeah.
over in High Point. I think we probably walk 50,000 steps in High Point. And so there's actual, there's buildings. I mean, in Vegas, showrooms could be a couple hundred, 100,000 square feet.
Mhm.
In High Point, you could be 300,000 square feet. So there's just a
Right.
lot more product it can be shown in the High Point area.
Same on the betting side between the two.
So when you look at the betting side, when you look at High Point, our largest betting vendors typically don't show there. I mean, we do have Serta that shows there, the licensee does, but a lot of regional players might show there, Rob. But as far as the trends between West Coast, East Coast, there's really not a huge difference on the betting side, because
Sure.
most of these betting vendors are incorporating the entire country. So
Yeah.
no matter where they're at, they are figuring out a way how to shop it or ship it to everybody. But it's not a huge betting aspect at High Point.
I imagine if there's any betting trends, it feels like the cooling mattresses might have, more of interest in the Southwest, as opposed to like I don't need that in Philly necessarily all year. But
You'd be surprised, Rob, because we are hot sleepers.
Yeah.
So whether you're in Philly or Mississippi,
Fair.
um,
Yeah.
it's nice to have, and it is actually one of the number one causes of sleep problems, right? When you start asking consumers, why aren't you getting a good night's sleep? Sleeping hot is the number
Hey,
one answer.
callback, we learned that Mr. Jonathan Scott doesn't like to sleep hot. So he said it's the worst thing, as far as sleep goes. He hates it. So
Is that a plug there for your
I didn't. I feel like I
podcast that
had
you
to.
did?
I'm sorry. I know I gotta stop, but it was.
So
I gotta. Hey, I gotta capture it. I got to
Yeah, it was such a great podcast, Rob. Y'all
appreciate
did
you
something
guys.
great.
I need to capture it in here talking to you. I know I've said it, but thank you again for setting that up just to keep it rolling.
and Rob, to get to the Scott brothers, I am taller than you.
We
We
did.
figured that
I
out.
know. Let's capture that too. Yes, we stood back to back. You got like
Wow.
half an
Shots,
inch.
shots fired. Shots fired on this early morning podcast we're
Uh,
doing this.
you'd
I know
see
I'm in the
how,
middle screen right now. I'm gonna like keep y'all apart. So
Oh no, I love it. Hey guys, before we wrap it up, I want to give the chance to. I know, the markets. You said this is kind of your twice a year Super Bowl in Vegas, and then we, 4 times a year, really, 2 high points as well. Um, but there's prime time going on, and then you guys have lots of a new initiative that I want to give you the chance to talk about too. So, the webinar series. I'm very excited that we're a part of it and get to help with that. And so for those that may not know, give them a little overview on kind of what that's about and what you're trying to accomplish there.
yeah, I'll just kind of touch on a little bit, and because
Mhm.
Chad had a great idea, and so this will be the direction that we're going to move forward. So we're always wanting to get the vendors in front of our membership as best as we can. And so we launched a webinar series at the beginning of the year. We had 3 vendors come on, and it was just like basically an infomercial just about emerging brands, just what could be out for people that may not go to market, always wanting to get our vendors in front. And so Chad, last month, he's like, what'd be awesome thing, like what we're doing is great, the information's great, but Chad was like, let's make it a little bit more personable. And so, Chad, if you want to, kind of tell them your idea, I think it's just awesome. I can't wait for us to launch it after prime time.
Yeah, yeah, and I, I can't take all the credit. It was actually Rob and I. We got on a call and started just ping ponging ideas back and forth. So what we came up with is, let's get a couple of vendors every month. So the second Thursday of every month, we're going to invite 2 vendor partners on, and we're kind of going to have a fireside chat with them, right? Take 15 minutes to talk with them to figure out what's going on, what are the trends, what are they seeing going on with the industry, just anything that we think is going to be relevant information with our member partners. And one of the cool things is that when we started this, we had asked the vendors to bring on a special offer, right? So for those of our retailers that take the time to sign up and to join the calls, we're going to give them a special offer that they cannot get if they don't join. We're still going to have that. Our vendors are still going to offer a carrot, if you will. Come on, listen to them, and then we'll present an offer that they can take advantage of.
No,
So
that's
it's
awesome.
we're looking forward to it. I'm pretty excited for it.
And for those, to tie it into primetime a little bit, those that'll be at Mattress University and the conversation that's going to happen there, it's kind of like an extension of that almost. The way, I know we've already talked about some of the questions you guys are thinking about asking and the direction of some of these chats. It extends that sort of the high value conversations that go down at an event like that during primetime.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Well, y'all, I took more time than I intended. I wanted this to be a quick, like, hey, hop in, hop out, get back to bed kind of thing so that we can really be recovered by prime time. But here we are, a good half hour later. And I just appreciate the time. Again, appreciate the hospitality out in Vegas and, diving deep into what market's like from your seat and your perspective. So this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Rob. It's awesome to just be a little part of the Nationwide family and just trying to continue to bring value to the membership and being able to go out to Vegas with a great team and really bring back some actionable items to the membership and different ideas and different ways to help drive traffic. It's just awesome. So Chad, it was great to be out there with you for almost a week. I know we missed David, but we'll all be back together in a couple of days. But just really appreciate all the hard work the whole team did. So
Don't miss them too much because you're going to see them again real soon. Awesome.
We tend to spend more time together during July and August than we do with our own families.
No, that's incredible. Cool. Well, thank you guys, and hey, we'll see you real soon.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Ralph. See ya.
Awesome. And thanks again to Jeff and Chad, not only for the interview itself, but for getting up early, just a few days after getting home from Las Vegas Market and doing that podcast with us. A lot of fun. Like I said at the top, great to get their perspective on the event, on everything that they've got going on, in addition to, what we do while we're there at Vegas Market, in the winter and summer months. So appreciate it. And as always, appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.